everyone and welcome to this video where we will dive into the fascinating topic of models of communication. Communication is a dynamic process and over time scholars have developed models to explain how it works. These models help us understand the flow of messages, the roles of senders and receivers, and the influence of feedback. Today we will explore the three main types of communication models, and these are linear, interactive, and transactional. So let's get started. The first one is linear model of communication. A linear model of communication is a model that proposes communication only moves in one direction. The sender encodes a message and sends it to a receiver through a specific channel. The linear model is the simplest form of communication. It views communication as a one-way process where a sender conveys a message through a channel to a receiver without any feedback. This model assumes that the receiver remains passive while the sender is active person. Also, the factor of noise is considered sometimes in linear model of communication. Now let's have a look at the types of linear model of communication. The first one is Aristotle's communication model. Aristotle's model is one of the oldest and simplest communication models. It focuses on three key elements: speaker, speech, and audience. The speaker delivers a message with the goal of persuading the audience. This model is often used in public speaking and persuasive communication. For example, imagine a politician giving a campaign speech. The politician as a speaker crafts their message to inspire voters, which are the audience, to support them. This model emphasizes the speaker's ability to influence through effective rhetoric and emotional appeal. The next one is Laswell's communication of model in linear model. Laswell's model analyzes communication through 5 questions. Who created the message? Communicator. What did they say? Message. What channel did they use? Medium. To whom did they say it? Audience. And what effect did it have on the receiver? Effect. For example, think of a company launching an advertisement. The company communicator creates a message about their product. This is a message. Broadcast it's via TV. So this is a channel. Targets their audience and aims to increase sales. So the audience targeted is the receiver or the audience, and aims to increase sales is the effect. So Laswell's communication model is great for understanding mass communication and its impact. Now the next one is Shannon-Weaver communication model, which is the most popular model. Shannon and Weaver are the first to introduce role of noise in communication process. Noise refers to any interference that distorts a message. It describes communication as a one-way process with the sender encoding a message, transmitting it through a channel, and the receiver decoding it. The components of Shannon-Weaver communication models are sender, encoder, channel, decoder, receiver. The person who is speaking is the speaker or the sender. Mouth is the encoder, channel is the medium, receiver's brain and ears are the decoders, and receiver is the person who is receiving the message. For example, imagine calling a colleague on the phone to discuss a project. You explain the task and you are the sender, but poor network reception noise makes it difficult for your colleague to understand. So here, poor network reception plays the role of noise and your colleague is a receiver to understand. This model is widely used in technical and media communication. The next model is Berlow's SMCR model. S stands for sender, M for message, C for channel, and R for receiver. And these are the 4 components of Berlow's SMCR model. It emphasizes that communication is linear, starting from the sender who encodes a message to the receiver who decodes it. Each component is influenced by factors like knowledge, attitudes, social system, and culture. The next model is interactive model of communication. The interactive model of communication refers to the two-way method of communication with feedback. The person who sends a message and the person who receives it plays the same alternating role. So we can say that feedback is an essential part of the process in interactive model, and the roles of sender and receiver switch during interaction. It is a two-way process where message and feedback are switched between sender and receiver. Osgood-Schramm is the first type of interactive communication model. The Osgood-Schramm model emphasizes communication as a two-way process where both participants act as sender and receiver simultaneously. It It introduces the idea of encoding, decoding, and feedback, making communication more interactive and dynamic. This model also accounts for shared experiences which influence how messages are interpreted. For example, think of two colleagues discussing a project over lunch. One shares an idea, encoding, the other responds with feedback, decoding and encoding again, creating a continuous exchange of information. This model is ideal for explaining conversations or dialogues. The model has three main principles. Communication is circular, communication is equal and reciprocal, and the message requires interpretation. The next one is Wesley and Macklin model of communication. This model focuses on communication in mediated environments and highlights how information flows through multiple sources before reaching the audience. It is primarily used for explaining mass communication. The communication process here does not start with the source or the sender, but rather with environmental factors. Objective orientation such as background, culture, and beliefs of the sender and the receiver of the messages are considered. It includes components like gatekeepers, example the editors who modify or filter messages before they are delivered. For example, a news reporter gathers information from eyewitnesses, sources, an editor reviews the story gatekeeper, and then the news is broadcast to the public audience. This model explains how communication works in mass media and in complex organizational settings. The third type of communication model is transactional model of communication. The transactional model of communication refers to the continuous exchange of information in which both the sender and the recipient are engaged and take turns communicating messages. Transactional model of communication views communication as a transaction. It is a cooperative process in which communicators co-create the process of communication. Communicators create shared meaning in a dynamic process, and it helps us to establish our realities. These also include roles of social context, relational, and cultural context. The main elements of transactional model are encoding, decoding, communication, message, channel, and noise. The first type of transactional communication model is Dantas helical. The Dantas helical model views communication as a continuous, evolving, and dynamic process. It is shaped like a spiral or helix to show how communication builds over time, incorporating past interactions into future exchanges. The model highlights how understanding and relationships grow with repeated communication. For example, think of a team brainstorming for a project. Their initial ideas may be basic, but as they discuss further and share feedback, their understanding deepens and ideas evolve. Each conversation builds on the previous one, making the process more effective. This model is perfect for illustrating how communication develops over time in ongoing relationships or collaborative efforts. In summary, communication models help us understand how information flows and evolves in different contexts. The linear model focuses on one-way communication, emphasizing the sender's role as seen in its type, making communication a two-way process like in different models. Lastly, the transactional model views communication as dynamic and continuous with participants simultaneously sending and receiving messages previously.